Well, it's on red, so.
This is Mike Rice, Man U supporter. A drinking game suggestion. Big Sam makes a point. Graham makes it about fucking Arsenal. You're listening to the DU Football Show.
I thought it would be fitting that Graham's not here to make it about Arsenal, and we've been very directly not talking about Arsenal. By the way, that's going to continue this week as well. But also that he's a Man U supporter, and they actually played okay. That was very weird. Hard to take in. Let's start the show.
Born in the land of Bowie, Maryland. Bred to be a fan of fucking Everton. Punch you in the eye and drink your rye. Sam Houston. Sam Houston? Arsenal fans have another Sam. AKA the fucking Gooner Graham. Smell of the Lord. Look straight in shorts. Sam Grammy. Sam Graham.
I see what you're doing there, Hiram. Hello and welcome to the DU Football Show, a totally biased recap of the English Premier League installed by three common American schmucks. I am your host, Sam Houston. Of course, Mr. Graham is away on paternity leave, and there was a little bit of snow on the ground this day, so everybody's doing it remotely. So over the internet, of course, out in the greater DC area, we have Nicole. How are you doing, Cole?
Hi, I'm doing just fine.
Perfect. And of course, up a little bit closer to Baltimore, the young hot freshness himself. Hiram, how you doing, brother?
I am enjoying some fried chicken and enjoying life.
I have bouncing Abby. He has bouncing chicken leg. Hysterical. Oh, y'all trying to fuck with me regularly. That's just what you all are doing.
That's what we got to do.
No, Hiram is fucking around because that's the second time in less than 30 minutes he waited for me to take a sip of something and then did that shit.
And of course, on the ones and twos, producer Mel. How you doing over there, producer Mel?
I am not hungover despite a all-day drinking binge yesterday for my birthday. And
good.
So cheers to being a professional alcoholic.
Yeah, very good. Very, very well done. A professional alcoholic.
Everyone's like, how are you feeling today? I'm like, I feel great. How is that possible? I drink professionally.
Because she had handlers and everything, and yet who had to still go fucking pick her up? Me.
Well,
That's
Nicole
right.
walked off on the job on stop 2 out of 6.
Did. I can't get WGW on a Sunday. I can't.
Ladies, you both disappoint me. We're recorded at the public house just outside the nation's capital. You can check us out wherever you get your podcast, and of course, streaming live on Monday nights. This one a little different just because of what's going on. But should you want to chat with us, there's many ways that you can. Hiram, tell the good people how they can get in touch.
You can get in touch with us on our socials at DU Football Show on all social sites. And also for email, you can shoot us an email at dufootballshow@gmail.com.
Fantastic. And right now on the old Tiki Takis, I'm doing the top 20 whiskeys, and eventually I'm going to make that a category and pin it to the top. So people, if they just want to watch the videos about the whiskey reviews, they'll all be in order, and you can do that. So the next two, tonight's and last week's, will be going up soon enough as well. So yeah, I've been enjoying that, and just in time for it to be either A, taken away from us, or B, the rumor is Trump and Elon are going to buy it, and then we're all fucked. Mm-hmm. Sam and myself both work in the wine and spirit industry and both have a deep, passionate love for all things distilled spirits. So as the red-blooded Americans we are, we've got to have a drink in our hand throughout this show and every single show. The Whisky Advocate Top 20 list continues. Since everybody is away, we are going to ask the best cold reader in the business, producer Mel, tell us what whiskey we are on today.
I don't know. Which number is it?
You're the one doing it.
I didn't read the notes. I'm doing this cold.
I
She's a pro at this.
Right
Tell
at
me
it.
which number.
Look at the label, Mel. It's number 16. The red breast.
There we go. Red
Oh,
breast
hey, how about
Mr.
that?
Coke edition. Why don't you just say that?
My wife was
All right.
Professionals, ladies and gentlemen.
Folks, when I really do this cold. One moment, please. Gotta wet my whistle. So we're drinking the Red Breast Missouri Oak Edition. Now, this Red Breast traditional single pot still whiskey aged in sherry and bourbon casks, but then it's finished for 10 months in virgin casks, making it an oak from the Ozarks. Now, the second release of the American Oak series follows Kentucky Oak from 2020-22, and it has a nose of honey, red apple, stone fruits, wood spices, sweet cinnamon, and cocoa powder. Now, honey, oak, red apple, and Oreo cookies spar with baking spices, black tea, and cinnamon bark, leaving a thrilling finish of taut, unflinching oak spices.
Excellent. And what was the price point in the score for this bad boy?
That little spicy write-up was done by Johnny McCormick.
Very good.
And this one is a $200 bottle by the mark, 50.5%, panel rating of 93, and it is described as an Irish single pot still. Again, Red Breast.
Yep, very good. Well done, Mrs. Houston. You can stop bending my magazine now. You can, great. Hand it to me while I'm trying to talk and everything. So the Kentucky Oak, which was their first release from the 2022 list, was number 2 on Whisky Advocate's top 20 of the year. This has taken a approximately $75 bottle increase since those 2 years. Very hard to come by. Big, massive shout out to my boy Nate at Total. He found a couple hiding in the warehouse and immediately called me and said, I have one, come get it. And I was there in about 30 minutes to pick up the bottle from him. Very, very happy to be able to get it. Disappointed at the price point. It was $225 for me. If you can find this, you're probably paying $250. And for me, when the list,
it's really sweet.
It's very good. It's a very good whiskey.
Literally sweet.
Oh yeah. Well, that's
not using.
Yeah, it's virgin oak.
Yeah.
That's virgin oak's going to give you a bunch of caramel and vanilla. That's just what it is. When they say virgin oak, you're talking about what American whiskey does, right?
Mm-hmm.
So brand new American white oak for any bourbon. That's what it has to be aged in. It can't be aged in used oak.
Is there a difference with what type of difference would there be between Ozark oak and say Vermont oak used in Whistlepig?
Okay, so a few things. The first thing to note is the Kentucky oak. That was the first one. That's a very small barrel house that makes barrels. When you say you're using Missouri oak, it's coming from one place, Independent Stave. Independent Stave makes almost all the barrels for bourbon in the United States. They are kind of the kings of making barrels. So that's where I'm not surprised with that one. The Vermont oak, the difference there is weather.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about Ozarks, it does snow, it does get cold, but you have big, fat, happy oak trees. Vermont, always cold. Skinny, little, pissed off oak trees. Because they're smaller, the rings are tighter together.
Mm-hmm.
And the rings are what have the chemical compounds of, say, like vanillin, which is what makes your bourbon taste like vanilla, right? That is part of it. And because they're one on top of another, those sweetness compounds is even like twofold because of that, because they're right on top of each other. The idea of the Missouri oak, the only thing I miss that I wish they had done with this is why finish it in brand new oak when you just aged it in used bourbon and sherry, which is what everybody does with single malts as it is, even though this is not a single malt, and I'll get to that in a moment as well. Very good whiskey. I really like it. It's a nice, easy drink. It's very sweet, like got lots of dessert quality to it. Price point's a bit much for me. I feel like if it's in the second half of the top 20, if it's over $200, it clearly wasn't good enough to be in the top 10. Why is it in the top 20? You could have found something that was affordable and interesting to talk about. That would have been a lot more cool to talk about than a bottle that's frankly impossible to fucking get. And this also won't be the only one in the bottom half of the top 10, top 20. that will also be impossible to fucking get. We'll be drinking one of those in about 3-4 weeks. And it took us forever to find and stupid expensive. And I don't know why it's on the top 20. I just don't. There's plenty of other incredible whiskeys that you could have highlighted instead. That's my only thing there. Now the topic of pot still. What is a pot still versus a single malt? Single malt is 100% barley, pot stilled, bottled and distilled in one location. That's what it is for a single malt. Pot still is the same thought process. 70% of that is malted barley that is distilled. 30% of that is unmalted barley, which is going through a column still. And then you blend the two together. Reasoning behind that is they need to be able to make some whiskey relatively quickly, because Irish whiskey for a very long time, there was nobody making it. There was only 3 distilleries, and pot still became a category, and they're the only ones making a pot still whiskey as well. They needed to be able to make whiskey to keep up with demand as Irish whiskey and whiskey as a whole kind of came back up to prominence. But I enjoy it quite a bit. It's very, very good. Mel, what do you think?
I like it. It's something I wouldn't order. It's a little too sweet for me. I think I prefer some of the other ones on the list. I'm a big fan of the gingerbread one, regardless of the gingerbread part of it. I happen to also like what was going with that flavor profile, but I do understand where it is on the list. It's just I don't like the sweeter ones.
Yeah, it's very fair, very fair. And of course, you two kids will get to try it when we do the whiskey party anyways. So,
but you know what I do remember?
What is that, Mrs. Houston?
I remember to remind everybody to please always drink responsibly, professionally, and legally.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers over the internet, everybody. Even though the first half gave us very little, the second half of the Northwest Derby was a fucking classic. Liverpool 2, Manchester United 2. Ugly start. Do we think that was intentional from United? Because it sure as hell felt like it was.
Nicole, I'll let you go first.
I definitely feel like it was. I think that United wanted to let Liverpool know that they had their number, that they were going to be on top of Salah. There were definitely a few times where I would say, the first 15 minutes where I had to stop and keep checking to be like, did I accidentally switch to the hockey channel? Like, what's going on right now? First of all, it was outdoors and snowing. And then secondly, some of these tackles, I was just like, y'all are playing hockey.
Okay. It was, you could certainly tell United was going to slow it down, play defensively minded, be very physical, try to take Liverpool out of the moment. And Hiram, here's where I'll come to you. The Reds certainly weren't themselves. It looked like it was working, and it certainly was affecting the Reds.
Well, I think it's simply put that United definitely came with the more aggression, kind of similar to what Nicole mentioned earlier, as far as like they wanted to apply the pressure to them early on. That way they can set the tone throughout the entire match, which to some effect it did work out. More so in the first half than it did the second, but it definitely didn't seem like the same Liverpool that we expected to see them, especially throughout their consistent performance throughout the season thus far. But I don't know. I was actually genuinely shocked with their performance overall with United, but it was probably, I guess, for Amarin's first. I think this is probably like his 8th or 9th match since he got appointed. Probably his best match that he had so far.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Also, Onana feels like as a keeper, he's finally starting to bed in and understand the Premier League. This means he's going to fuck it off. In the FA Cup, he's going to make a mistake. We all know it's going to come, but it feels like he's starting to become very much a big opportunity, big save goalkeeper. Wouldn't you say, Nicole?
I would, definitely. Well, I mean, again, going back to the first half, it felt like Liverpool were really pushing for that early goal. Like, that's what they wanted. And I even put it in my notes when I was preparing for the show. It's like, great saves by Onana. Like he
Mhm.
just understood the assignment and said, no, 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 first one will not be free today. We're gonna go into the half 0-0. Like
But then we come out of the second half and not Graham's normal pet peeve in the 45th minute. It wasn't until like the 59th, but finally goal happens. Seems like, okay, here comes the floodgates. Liverpool's gonna, I'm sorry, here comes Liverpool's, because United scored first, that here comes Liverpool now. It's just going to be, thunder and fury and it's over, because we've seen that happen before. Liverpool gets scored on and then they just rain down thunder on people.
Right.
But they got a goal back quickly, but then it was dead even stalemate the rest of the way, even with, again, them trading goals, because then there was the penalty from Mo Salah, but then turn right back around. Manchester United answers again. And frankly, before the end of the match, United probably should have won it. Like a better pass by Xerxes to Maguire, and that ball's in the back of the net. Now, I know everybody's gonna, people who don't know any better are going to go, oh my God, Maguire skied it. No, Xerxes gave him a shit fucking pass. He kicked it into the ground and skipped it, so it was jumping up in the air. Like, no. It was not if you're gonna not take the shot as a striker, which first and foremost, why the hell aren't you taking the shot? You're a fucking striker. Then you're going to make that pass across. It needs to be the simplest. Just slide it on the ground. So all they have to do, because this is what that person, Maguire, is thinking. Stick my foot out. Yep. That's all you're thinking. So it needs to be a good pass. And it was just a terrible pass. But Hiram, your kind of thoughts on the second half of the match?
It definitely, I think that by halftime, Liverpool was starting to really figure them out for sure. It was, and kind of mentioning as far as like the Maguire miss, it definitely, like thinking back at it now, like when I was watching the highlights, I'll admit I didn't see like an entire match, but of course, like throughout those highlights, it definitely seemed like Liverpool was starting to build that momentum and build that steam, which eventually they did, of course. I think with like the Maguire pass that he got, and from first view, it looked like it was probably like sliding on perfectly, and he definitely should have slided that to maybe the top corner or something. But again, I don't know in that scenario, because I don't know like how the ball looked as far as like the pass overall from like first glance, but probably looking back at it, it probably was skipped over as you mentioned. So I probably would have
it was a shit pass. It was a shit pass.
Yeah, I probably have to look back and see that. But generally, I think this wasn't, like I mentioned, like this was probably United's best performance since they brought Amarin in as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And I think it was because like they realized they didn't need to be super gritty, super aggressive the entire match, which to some degree they were. But Liverpool again just showed that they needed to. They're like the top team in the Prem or top team in Europe, so they of course were able to bounce back and be able to get the draw again.
So Cole, does United build off of this, or was this just like City and it was that one shining moment and then they're going to go back to fucking it off again?
Oh my God, you almost are reading my mind, because again, I put down this exact note. This was a glimmer of hope for Man United fans, and it's a setup for disappointment, because
well said.
The consistency is just not there.
Well, like, it seems like there's so much that needs to be changed to United. Mel, you got a question for us from the internet?
Yeah, Smokey's hanging out in the chats, and he has a rumor and speculation. Rumor and speculation is that J-Lo is out and Potter's in.
Oh, really?
Not confirmed. Not confirmed.
I was going to say there was some rumor about that earlier today before the afternoon match got kicked off. And Onstead, who's normally the insider, had said there was no real proof that was actually a rumor. Nothing about Potter being in, but that Lopetegui being gone. There was no confirmation on that yet. For the Reds, it kind of worked out perfectly because everybody else that's around you fucked it off. So, you still kind of keep your lead. Everything's okay. Not your best day at the office, but you figured out a way to get a point, right? Wouldn't you say, Hiram?
I would think so. It again, like it's sort of something they can bounce back from, but it's a matter of like keeping that consistency and trying to build off from this momentum overall too. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say from this moment on, but then looking at it from Liverpool's side, I guess this was probably just like a minor hiccup that they probably encountered, and they can definitely bounce back from this and eventually move on or from here.
Cole, it's hard to think that Liverpool would look past a Northwest derby, right? Because for all the local derbies we talk about, and even the Merseyside, there's one massive derby in England. It's Manchester United versus Liverpool. It is number one with a bullet. It's the rivalry of rivalries. Right. Is it possible Liverpool was looking past the Northwest Derby because they have their League Cup semi and the FA Cup over this next week?
I think it's possible. I also think that they were hoping that their enthusiasm, that momentum that they've been building with week after week of win and draw, like, just being top of the table was going to carry them through. Yeah, and now
it felt like they thought they were just going to walk over them, and then United decided to make it tough.
Yep, exactly. And I think that in this case, Man U understood the assignment. I think this is the assignment that they understood, and they might not understand the next one, right? But for Liverpool, it was huge because now there's blood in the water. Yeah. Now you've got the attention of everybody who may have been also looking past, maybe Forest and, Chelsea and some of the others on top. Like, everybody's kind of tight right now. We've got another 19 weeks. You know what I mean? Like,
right, exactly.
And now they're like, oh shit, no, you better play the ludicrous right now. We coming for the number one spot. We coming. Like,
there was a rumor put out there that apparently there was a scuffle in the locker room after the match between Trent Alexander-Arnold and Darwin Nunez. First comment was absolute gold. Well, that's good. Trent Alexander doesn't know how to defend, and well, Darwin Nunez can't hit the target.
Oh,
yeah, it was pretty brilliant.
Gold,
fucking brilliant.
Fucking gold.
All right, the bottom of the table is starting to get a little tighter as sides took advantage and other sides did not. Villa 2, Leicester 1, Bournemouth 1, Everton 0, Ipswich 2, Fulham 2. You know what? Not pretty for Villa, but it's fucking 3 points. And at this point, you need 3 points.
Can I point something out?
Please.
Yeah.
Someone didn't score.
I know. Someone didn't score.
Someone tried real hard and couldn't score.
Didn't he hit the underside of the post on one?
Yes.
Yeah, right in the gym.
Yeah. Watkins, you got to start scoring, bro.
Yep.
You know who did score? Oh, Crayon Eater did.
I did. So Houston's in the other room, and I'm back here watching it at the desk, and all he hears is me yell from back here, "Buy yourself a whole box of crayons!"
And I just yelled back. I go, "Did Barkley just score?" She's like, "Yep."
All you needed to know.
The thing that I'm sure has to be frustrating, though, as a Villa supporter, Nicole, is this is a team you need to beat. You should beat handedly because they're not a very good team. You get the lead and then you promptly give it right back to them within minutes. Within minutes, you gave the game right back.
Yeah. I mean, well, for once, at least we didn't give away the lead early.
Right. Well, that's because Leicester is not very good.
But that's exactly, like, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly why it was so frustrating. But apparently Leicester is just out here trying to fuck up people's days. Yeah. Like they did the same thing last week too. Like all of a sudden we just go find football in our soul, and they just went out on that pitch and said, "Fuck you, Villa." It was absolutely Villa's match to lose. And I have two notes from the entire match, which Mel already touched on, was why the fuck can't Ollie Watkins score? And number two was why can't Villa find a way to not concede goals in the last 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Mhm.
There was a stat that
You
came
texted me that
over.
during the game.
I
you?
did, because I was super frustrated by it at that point too. It was like the last 15 minutes, we've done nothing but concede goals the last 11 weeks.
Mhm. Now, the thing for Leicester now, this is since Ruud van Nistelrooy came on, they got a draw, they got a win, and now they have lost 5 straight. Do we think maybe Leicester got caught up in the moment that Ruud had been managing United and United went on a little good run of form and they were like, this is the guy we need. This is who should be our manager. And do we think it was a mistake by Leicester?
I think so, just because it was definitely more of like a hype situation. It definitely wasn't like a very, I shouldn't say it wasn't a thought out plan. I think for Van Nistelrooy to start off his head coaching career at I might be mistaken with like his head coaching career, but like for him to be like in the Prem and have like his full on head coaching debut in the Prem to be with Leicester, I guess, then it fits. But then like kind of seeing like the different pieces, like you're coming from United, who probably have more of a well balanced, organized team and more uh and lack of better words, higher class team compared to a Leicester who literally just came from the championship. Um, it's definitely like apples to oranges for sure. So it's not like I think they definitely did expect for them to have like a major flip, whereas like United had those 3 wins and ever since then they haven't won a match since. But even still, it's honestly going to take a miracle for all that to happen again for Van Nistelrooy, especially over Leicester too.
Well, there's also a bunch of rumors coming out too. We've talked about it already on the show with apparently he hasn't made a lot of friends in his managerial career. He did manage in Holland for a little while. And then of course he had the very short interim stint at United, but there are concerns that he might not be able to bring in people because people don't want to play for him necessarily. It felt rushed for me. It felt very rushed. It felt like Leicester felt like they had to do something. And frankly, not that they'd be in much better shape with Steve Cooper still at the helm, but I feel like they'd be doing a little bit better, like just the slightest bit better. But yeah, it's as the Leicester supporters that felt that they had finally become part of the furniture to go back down to the championship, win it easily, and then to come back up and to see yourself really struggling for survival has got to be head scratching for them, because they're like, we thought we had built this organization to be a Premier League team and it's just not working. Moving on, the Cherries get a win against the team they're supposed to beat. They finally get a win against the team they're supposed to beat. Sure as fuck wasn't convincing. That's for damn sure.
And this one I was like watching with my mom, who was just like, "Oh, the boys in blue are doing so well," and I'm like, "Okay, just wait."
You're like, that's Big Sam's team. Well, honestly, here's my issue for right now with Everton is they're playing dice ball, right? And we talked about this a little bit last week, and this is what they're going to be now. It's going to be 1-0 losses, 1-0 wins, 0-0 draws. It's going to be grinded out. It's not going to be attractive football. And frankly, for me, knowing where we are financially, getting ready to move into a new stadium, we're going to be losing a lot of dead weight contracts at the end of the year as well. So it's kind of, and also Dyche is on the end of his deal, right? We don't have to re-sign him. This is going to be what Everton's going to be. Now, if that's what we're going to be, though, what is frustrating is the goal that happened. Just before the goal happened, I am hoping and praying with all of my heart that Evan Ellison is healthy and okay and healing from the massive fall on the ground he took in front of James Tarkowski, because Tarkowski didn't put a single hand on him and a foul was called, right? Just completely dove right in front of him. Here's the problem. Right off that kick, long ball down the side of the field, move it into the center, put it across to a weak post to nobody that's there, and it's in the back of the net. How can you let that happen? If this is going to be the team you're going to be, that right there cannot fucking happen. And it doesn't matter if that shouldn't have been called or not. Shouldn't have fucking happened. And that's the bigger thought process with new ownership. Hiram, do we think there's a chance they may fire Dyche here? Because he's only won one in his last 16. Now, there's been a ton of draws and the teams survived and doing what they're supposed to do, but it's also not wins. And there's a new ownership group. Do you think they maybe go, you know what? The future's now. Let's get it started.
I think so, mainly because and this probably has nothing to do with like what they're doing on the pitch, but it kind of relates to the pitch itself, where they brought in the brand new stadium that I believe they're starting in next season as well too. Which, by the way, it definitely looks gorgeous from the outside. I literally saw like behind the scenes footage of it as well. But I think especially if they want to be considered as like a premier team, especially being in the Premier League, it's only fitting to at least have like a premier manager in this case. And I don't think Dyche is probably like at that level to keep them up. Granted, they are, I believe, 16th or 15th on the table right now, but they always find a way to like keep being in conversation of like relegation or if they're gonna stay up by like the skin of their teeth. So they want to be able to say like we're a constant mainstay in the Premier League, where they're in the top 10 or even top 6 like they were in years prior as well too. So I think probably with the new ownership group coming in, and then of course like the constant pressure that is going down the back of his neck as well too, I think it's bound to happen that he might be on the chopping block.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how I feel about it. Look, if he keeps us up and we're 16th place and this season's a wash, right? Like for me as a supporter, it's stay up, because Arsenal and Everton, those are the two longest lasting clubs in the top flight. Chelsea went down in the 80s. Man United went down in the 80s. City wasn't even there when the Premier League was formed. They went down a bunch of times. They used to be horrid. Everyone else has gone down. The only two who haven't is Arsenal and fucking Everton. And Everton, the last time they were in a lower league was in the early 50s. That's the last time. So you certainly can't have them going into the new stadium in the championship. And I know that's the running joke. Everybody likes to make it an Everton supporter, and it's fine. It's fine. We're not very good. I'm used to hearing it. Do we think, for me, do we think that there's a guy who could do it now? Maybe. That guy would probably be Graham Potter, and maybe he's going to West Ham. So it might be a situation of we have to act now to get the guy we want for the future. Can he handle not necessarily having a squad built in his image? Because he's not going to get any players right now, right? PSR is still breathing down our necks. We're going to have to wait until the summer. When I tell you so much money comes off the books, it's insane the amount of salaries that come off the book. I mean, we had guys like last year who we finally got off the books, and Andres Gomez, who I love him. He's one of the most beautiful men in the world. And Son's an asshole for hurting him. But he was on 150K a week. Like, that's ridiculous, right? When like the reason why Richarlison moved on to Spurs is because he was on 60K a week. Like, we just spent a lot of money on the wrong people. Unfortunately, that's about to fix itself out. But the thing they have to be wary of is Palace have suddenly gotten some form. Wolves have gotten some form. And the next match we're going to talk about right now, Ipswich is on a hell of a run. I think it's 5 straight unbeaten with draws and wins. They still find themselves in the relegation zone because that's the kind of hole they had dug themselves in already. But I'll tell you what, this Fulham match was fucking crazy, especially the second half, wasn't it?
Yes. I had the title for this match just noted as PKs and crossbars. Like, that's what it was. It was so crazy. And from the very beginning, I mean, the Davis foul on Wilson, that was a proper good call. That was a proper good call.
Yeah.
But when you have a situation where that's what you're down to, I mean, Ipswich got it.
Yeah. Now, here, the other thing, too, is there could have been more penalties in the first half as well.
Oh, my God, yes.
Obviously, end of the first half, Sammy Smodix gets the goal, and they're up 1-0. Going to the second half, and Fulham had been really pushing the narrative. It was clear Fulham was on for the day. They just weren't putting the ball in the back of the net. Finally, they get a penalty, but it was interesting for Wilson. The ref initially didn't want to call it, and Wilson, I'm surprised Wilson didn't get a yellow for losing his damn mind the way he jumped up and screamed at the ref after that missed call. Yeah. And now here's the funny one is, of course, Raul Jimenez gets up from the spot, does it, and then, what was it, 45 seconds later at the other end, the one thing you just don't do it. Just don't. What do they do? Give up a motherfucking penalty.
Yep. It was less than a minute.
Yeah. It was just immediately. It was right off the kickoff. And that one was blatant. I mean, it was clearly obvious. You just look, you're like, why are you taking a nibble? Don't take a nibble in the box, man. Don't poke your foot out like that. If you poke your foot out like that and you do not get the ball, the man is going down. And if you touched him in any way, shape, or form, that is getting called. VAR is not going to save you. And it was soft by definition.
Right.
This is almost like what we were talking about last week with you guys, Hiram. The call on the pitch was made as a penalty. VAR has to say it clear and obviously wasn't. And there wasn't enough evidence there. I mean, I guarantee you, the refs are probably like, yeah, that was a really soft penalty. But the ref called it a pen on the pitch. There was nothing that would made it obvious. It was like you saw contact on the foot and you knew it was going to be a penalty. It's just what it was. And fortunately, I feel like this ended the right way because Fulham did get another opportunity at a penalty. Raul scores again. And, this is good for Fulham that Jimenez is starting to score. It's also probably pretty good for Nicole too, since he's on her fantasy team.
I was like, yes, it is great. A little stat that I wrote down on that one was Raul Jimenez, 10 out of 10 on penalties. I was like, oh, that's an interesting one. I'll just I'll make that note for my Tuesday fantasy team picks.
Yeah, as a whole, what I kind of wanted to get to here was what I just hinted at before, Hiram, is it feels like Ipswich is playing correctly, right? They're moving in the right direction, not necessarily getting the points they need, but moving in the right direction. Wolves have had a good run until today. Now, their schedule is about to get brutal in the next 8 matches. But Palace, all those teams seem to be doing the right thing. And Everton seems to be kind of just doing what they do, which is win by a little, get a draw. But it's like, it doesn't feel like they're putting anything together. Do we think there's a chance that Ipswich can get themselves out of this?
I think so. And I might be saying this as like a very upset Chelsea fan, even though they beat us 2-0. But there's definitely a chance they can build themselves out of this for sure. I think they might be willing to stay up. Me personally, I would like for them to stay up, even though I'm low-key Wolves. I shouldn't say fan, but I like the club as a whole, so I would like for them to stay up as well too. But however, semicolon, comma, I think that it'll be Ipswich that stays up for sure. Mainly just because they are starting to find their way for sure. And especially, I think you said, 5 matches they without a loss or
it's this draw beating you. There was another draw. I think they've lost 1 in their last 5 is what it was, if I believe.
Okay. But even still, like being able to at least come out with at least some points out of those 4 matches as well too is a start for sure. So, again, even though as it may hurt that they got 3 of those points against us, I think they still have a chance and still have a long way to go for sure. It's just a matter of timing and consistency, which is a very common thing, especially in this league for sure. Plus, as we've seen before, like it's very tough to even stay up in this league, especially if you're considered like bottom of the table team, or even a team that literally just came up from the championship as well too, like we saw with Luton Town last season as well. Like they were able to keep a very strong competition throughout the entire season, but however their fate was that they got relegated again though.
All righty, kids, we will finish the segment on this. More Newcastle, more Lord shots for Houston. I'm going OG because that's just how it's going to be. So come on, Everton. Don't do this to me again. Rounding out the rest of the league. And so that happened. Newcastle 2, Tottenham 1, Palace 1, Chelsea 1, Man City 4, West Ham 1. The worst part is it makes your mouth water while you're trying to, oh God. Brentford 5, Southampton 0, Arsenal 1, Brighton 1, Forest 3, Wolverhampton 0. Another great day at the office for Newcastle. Tottenham played well. Tottenham is also very, very, very thin. I mean, what was it? A 17-year-old and a newly signed transfer in at center back as their opening pair for the match. But I think what was more interesting than anything, game is the game. It was Ange. Big Ange had some thoughts. Well, actually, Big Ange had one thought that he said over and over again. All things being fair and balanced, this game would have turned out differently. And then they asked, was it the way Newcastle played? All things being fair and balanced, things would have been differently. Was it the lineup you put out there? All things fair and balanced, this would have turned out differently. Was it the officiating? All things fair and balanced, this thing would have turned out differently. It's like, well, first off, Ange, you benched a bunch of starters, and because you have a League Cup game in the middle of the week this week. Newcastle does too, and Newcastle played all their starters. Newcastle had all their guys there. They didn't sub them in the last 20 minutes of the match like you did. And he was looking for two handballs, two very specific handballs, one that came off a goal. Their player kicked the ball off the guy's arm. His arm wasn't out. It was just there on his side. He kicked it off of him. That was it. Yeah. That's all he did. It was not intentional. His arm wasn't out of the way. And then the one inside the box, again, guy's arms are on his side. Where is he supposed to put his arms? It gets kicked up and it hits him in his arm. He didn't move his arm up. He didn't move his arm out. He didn't try to direct the ball. Literally, his arm was just laying there at his side and the ball hit his arm.
Right.
Not fucking handballs, right, Nicole?
No, I agree. Neither of them were handballs. But because that's what he wanted, and I watched the interview, the post-game interview. And it started out, so solid. Oh, I'm really proud of everything that they did, despite, the injuries that we've had and the way everybody, and then it was two sentences where he praised his team. And then everything after that was, if all things were fair and balanced. And I'm just like,
yeah,
good on the reporter for not letting him off the hook, because he was asked several times, like, well, what do you mean by that? Can you expound on that? Right, can you give me a little bit? We're like, are you talking about the officiating? Because obviously it was the officiating. Like, you're going to be a little.
It was the handballs. It was the
right. It was
he wanted the handballs called.
You're going to sit there and you're going to be passive aggressive and pretend like that's not why you mad. You're just going to be the mad rapper right now. That's not why you mad. Just sitting there. All things being fair and equal. Like, all things were fair and equal.
Yeah.
Newcastle didn't have a problem scoring.
Yeah. Exactly. Hiram, is it me, or does that response from him sound like a man that is under pressure?
I'm gonna try to just do this just like Ange, but all things are just all fair and balanced, yeah.
Well, in 2 weeks, if all things are fair and balanced, maybe Ange will still have a fucking job.
No, it honestly though, he did like a man very defeated for sure. Like even and I don't know if this is just me, but and this is very judgmental for me to say, but it didn't look like he wanted to like take off his jacket, but his jacket was like half off during the post match. Um, it just looked like he just wanted to like ball up and cry in the corner or something like that. But at the same time, and you knew what you were getting yourself into with this role, especially. But it was a very balanced game overall that you guys just didn't make the most of your opportunities. Simple as that. You can't really say, oh, it's all on the refs, it's all on other opportunities or external forces. No, what you guys do on the pitch is a direct result as to what you guys end up doing on the rest of the table as well too. So it just didn't work out for you guys in the end.
Yeah, it's for me, I feel like he's put himself into this situation. And yes, injuries are horrible, and it's going to be tough for them to even make Europe now, to be quite honest or fair, unless they go out and win a cup, which, come on, it's Tottenham. Tottenham doesn't win any cups. Yeah. Well, that'll maybe.
No, we got shots fired in the chats.
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Well, I'm sure Smokey, as being a West Ham supporter.
No, Jordan Spelling up the Palace says that they're better than Chelsea.
You know what? Perfect transition, Jordan. Well done. Chelsea absolutely dominate again, but seem to not be able to put a team away. Yes, producer Mel.
Speaking of Chelsea, Smokey wants to know, Hiram, how does it feel to have 5 former Chelsea players win the Italian Cup today?
Oh, damn.
I'll see myself out.
You know what? Melange is Chelsea in Italian colors. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. So it's pride. Hey, if only they could do it in a Chelsea uniform, that would have been nice.
Yeah, well, one of them kept getting injured so many times and couldn't handle the Premier League. The other one, well, actually, no, that's 2 of them, actually. The other one, he's a valid center back, and I'm not even going to disrespect Tomori, so I got to give him credit for that. And I can't hate it. Well, no, he's gone now, so I can't say anything. Anyway.
I mean, honestly, Hiram, this again, we're gonna make the constant excuse that this is a young team and this is a new manager and all of that, but at the end of the day, this is also Chelsea fucking Football Club, and there's an expectation, and you guys seem to not be able to put teams away. You give them an opportunity to get back into it, and in this instance, you went up 1-0 early. It should have been done and dusted. You should have beat the shit out of this team. Palace is okay, but they're not. I mean, even in their building, you should be able to beat them. And that was, it's got to be disappointing.
Well, it definitely was for sure, because even when they came to Stamford Bridge, they drew with us 1-1 then as well too. So that was just as disappointing to kind of have the same result happen at Selhurst as well. But I think, and to speak on like the young squad, yes, they're young, but you guys know exactly who the fuck you guys are playing for. You guys are playing for Chelsea. This is one of the most top heralded clubs in all of the Premier League as well too. So if you're going to play for this team, at least take some fucking effort. Like, I saw more effort in the fucking Josh Anchampong, who literally just had his first Premier League start as a center back, and he's only like fucking 18. Granted, Levi Colwell, I huge fan of him. He's been doing great for us in the back as well too. But I've saw more hunger and tenacious energy from Anchampong than I did anyone else. There was an opportunity literally where Gusto could have passed up to Jackson to literally give Jackson an easy goal, but sadly, again, it is Nico Jackson. He hasn't been on target at all.
And Cole, this is the kind of thing I bring you in because we talk a comparison would be like college basketball, right? Oh, this is a team of freshmen and sophomores. You figure it out in September and October. By November, December, and January, you need to have figured it the fuck out, right? Like, you need to be going. And it feels like the only place that it's really acceptable to say a team is young is either at the start of the season when they're figuring it out, or at the end of the season because they lost it. You can go, team's too young. They just weren't prepared for it, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think all things being fair and balanced, that, normally you would be able to make that judgment, right? You'll be able to judge Chelsea on that. I do think that there needs to be a little bit of grace on that, and because
Hiram just blanked himself.
he did. But I think there does need to be a little bit of grace on that one because it's not a situation like Yates, like we'll talk about later with Forrest, where you have somebody who has that like seasoned experience who can then impart that wisdom on. You need that level of seniority that I think they're and they'll get there, right? Like it's Chelsea, it's fucking Chelsea. They're going to get there. These are not like,
oh, trust me, they're going to be on everybody's list next year to win the Prem.
Yeah,
a lot of people are going to be like, oh, they had a year under their belts. Now they're going to sign the few pieces they need, and
exactly.
Chelsea, be ready. Like that is going to be a prediction at the start of next year.
Mm-hmm.
But to be fair,
to you of that.
To be fair, people said that about us this year. Not necessarily we win the Prem, but at least like we had a season on our belt. We had the young talent. We were able to develop at least something. Now that we're able to move into this season, we're doing well. People say we were in a fucking title race. I told y'all from the fucking jump, we were not in a title race. Just because we were in second in the table in October doesn't mean we're in a title race. You guys are saying the same thing to fucking Nottingham Forest, that they're in a title race, but lo and behold, once it's Chelsea, you know what the fuck the situation is.
Final thought for Palace. This is actually I know we're talking about what Chelsea should have done. For Palace, this is a great fucking point. You're continuing to just little by little separate yourself from the rest of the bottom of the pack. And that's the key thing from such a horrific start for Palace. Just don't be in the discussion at the end of January, right? Get through it. Suddenly be in 14th place, and nobody's going to think you're in the discussion for the drop anymore, which will be perfect. Mm-hmm. Bees had themselves a day on the road, and the Bees normally don't do very well on the road, but it was at Southampton, and Southampton's fucking horrible. And it seems like everybody but Everton can beat Southampton at Southampton.
Let's be real.
They beat them. They beat them bad.
It just wasn't even close.
It wasn't even close. 5-0.
Mm-hmm.
I thought to myself, I'm like, well, whatever doubts there were about post Tony Brentford,
mm-hmm.
I think the kids are going to be all right. I don't think they're going to be very high, at the end of the season. They're going to be just fine. They're going to be okay. Little Ting Ting going to be fine. Okay.
Yep. What they needed was their guys up top scoring. Shad scored, and Mbeumo scored twice. Wisa scored. Done and dusted. If they're scoring goals, they're fine. They're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. Their defense is a little leaky at the back, but you beat a bad team. You did what you were supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I want to try to find things to talk about Southampton, but they're just good luck rebuilding in the championship next year. They're going to get a few more wins. They're going to go surprise a few people. They'll get a few, but I'm not ready to start making the comparisons of is this team going to be as bad as Derby County, right? Which I think mathematically they already can't be, but still you kind of look at it and you're just like, wow, you changed the managers and he quote shored up the defense, and then you sure as fuck gave up 5 goals. What the actual hell? Seagulls again. Not winning, but not losing, right? They're not losing. Was it me, or did just Arsenal seem slow, guys?
I think they let up off the gas big time. Big time. And this is another case where it was absolutely their game to lose.
Right. And it felt like at a point they were trying to give it away even, right? Didn't it feel that way, Hiram?
100%, because I felt like there was multiple opportunities where they just pretty much let I was about to say Brentford, Brighton just literally have the ball and just say, all right, it's your turn. I'm done playing with it right now. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It was, I hate to say uncharacteristic of Arsenal, but in this case it was, just because I wasn't expecting them to kind of just be on cruise control the entire time, just kind of ease into it and expect it will be an easy win, knowing that they have certain key pieces on their team missing in this match as well.
Smokey, this one is directly for you because I know you're going to appreciate this. And Graham isn't here to make excuses. That's definitely a pen. I don't care if Saliba was going for the ball. He hit him in the head, much like Fabianski hit Gabriel right in the head, even though he was going for the ball. So there was absolutely, positively a penalty. And I know Smokey was probably thinking to himself after seeing the headbutt, he was like, how are Arsenal fans going to go ahead and say that wasn't a penalty when that's exactly what happened to their guys when we played them? And nope, a hands down a penalty. I completely agree, Smoke. And Graham's not here to make excuses and whine and cry, which is what he would have done. And I'd like to let you know, I would have battled him on it nonstop. I would have been like, shut the hell up. It was definitely a penalty.
I just think the connections weren't there. Those quick little passes that we're used to from Arsenal, like, were practically non-existent in the bottom third. Like, they just weren't on.
Yeah, they looked
asleep. They were
on. They really did look asleep at the wheel. Nuno and Gibbs White back at the Molineux both came from Wolverhampton, and they put the stones to Wolves. Wolves actually played fairly decent and composed, but the style of play Newcastle is playing, I'm amazed nobody's figured it out yet. They sit back, they wait for you to make a mistake, and then it's 5 guys charging down the goal, and they get goals. And they may only take 5 shots on target in a match. 3 of them are going in the back of the fucking net. Like, they are executing perfectly right now. Wouldn't you say, Nicole?
Oh yeah. I mean, and Forrest did it like several times throughout this match specifically, where they just waited for them to mess up, and then whoever, it doesn't matter who it is that has the ball. This is the other thing that I find so impressive. Yeah. Whoever it is that gets a fucking ball turns on the jets, and it's like a steam locomotive going down the other end of the pitch. And you better get on board, or you better get out of the way because you're going to get run over.
The Newcastle kid they got, Anderson, that they got this summer, he really seems to be the one from the middle of the field. He wins the ball in the middle of the field, and then it's just off to the races.
Yep.
Allowing Gibbs White to make himself more offensively open, as opposed to being the guy that's bringing the ball up the pitch. Alenga, Hudson-Odoi, it doesn't matter. And then you've got that big fucking meaty forehead of the New Zealand Chris Wood just waiting in the middle, like,
yeah. Chris Wood. I mean, and when you talk about a team that is on and that is making those connections, I think Forrest has it down. Like, they have figured out what that formula is to make those teams, those matchups, right? Like Anderson and Gibbs White, like, again, this week and last week as well. If I had to take a shot for every time they announced those pair on the TV, I would have been falling over. I wouldn't have been able to make the podcast today because it would have been too many damn times. But
they are now level with Arsenal in second place. That's the only thing is goal difference right now for them. So they're cruising. And I'll tell you what, if Arsenal has to go to the City Ground, which I think they still do, it's going to be a tough day at the office for them, man. Forest is not going away. They're not going away. Now, I want to finish with this. Wolves over the next 7 or 8 at Newcastle, at Chelsea. Well, that should be like a late 1-1 draw. Home to Arsenal, home to Villa, at Liverpool, right? So that's 5. And you're like, okay, maybe then it'll get easier. At Bournemouth and Fulham, who are both playing really fucking well. It's not until March that their schedule gets easier. In March, they have Everton and Southampton. But by then, it could already be too late. They could find themselves back in 19th again. Even though they're playing well. Pereira's got them playing better defense, but that's a murderer's row, man. That is tough. And I think we're going to have Danny on soon to be able to discuss them as well. I'm a little worried for him, man. I really, really am. Even though they've got the right manager in there and they've got a pretty good lineup. It's just I'm getting real fucking nervous for him.
Your money.
All right, this is going to be simple and sweet because we don't make bets for the FA Cup. Would it surprise anybody to hear that Graham is
not good gambling?
No, not at all.
No one's surprised by that.
Gotta.
By the way,
yeah.
Before you get into that, can I just give a shout out to hopefully new listener Jordan, who is a Crystal Palace supporter, and has been wanting us to talk more Palace. Is convinced Hiram wants to talk more Palace, and Nicole doesn't, but he has decided he likes us, and we want to know, what game are you playing, Hiram?
What game am I playing?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay. We were wondering if you were like playing another game or doing something else while the show was going on.
I'm looking at notes.
Oh, Jordan, he wants to know how to make a donation. Nicole, if you wanted to do that, how would he do that?
You would have to go to www.patreon.com/DU football show. And it's only one $5 tier. So it's super easy. Best replacement for Starbucks I ever made.
It's like, you are a Patreon supporter. And for that, you get our extra shows. And I promise we will talk more Palace on our bonus show.
Oh, we always do. Well, the key thing with the show is, Jordan, if you're a new listener, what I always try to do is we make sure all 10 matches get talked about.
I know that, so. Jordan. I make up shit. Hiram, Jordan wants you to know he never asked what game. It was me. It was all me.
Okay. Well, hey, Jordan, get used to it. That's my wife. She throws me under the bus all the time. While Graham is out there losing them bankrolls, you know what Mr. Houston does? Hit motherfucking bets. I am now up $611.
Ah, shit, premature button.
I am now up $611.
Big Sam's Lock of the Week.
Did you know that 26.315789.5% of the time it works 100% of the time, baby? That is how it rolls. I hit with I took both Brentford and Forest to win on the road, and they both won convincingly. In fact, they won on 8-0 aggregate. So I am up. Graham is down. If we still had a chicken, I'd even be beating the chicken in betting right now, which would be fucking phenomenal. That's going to wrap it up, boys and girls. Hiram, any parting words?
Yes. I want to make a clear up on the last episode. I said that it really be like there will be returning on January 15th. I lied. I did not know my dates. It'll be coming back on January 17th because that is an actual Friday. So be sure to check out It Really Be Like That. It's my show that I do by myself and with occasional guests as well. Talk about pop culture, sports, everything under the fucking sun. I do cuss a lot on there, so be mindful of that as well. But definitely go check me out on there. It is available on all podcast platform of choice.
Fantastic. Cole, thank you so much for joining us again. I noticed you were drinking a little whiskey there. What did you have in the glass tonight?
I just have the Maker's Mark cast strength.
Oh, fabulous. Very good. Nothing wrong with a good weeder. And anything you got for closing words as well?
Stay warm and enjoy the snow.
Well, one last thing, I would like to throw it over to producer Mel. You are working on a brand new project. What are you doing?
I have a new podcast out. It is called No Sleep Till 50. And it is just a reflection on 1 year into my 50th birthday and how I have really complicated feelings on that, and life lessons and problems and all that stuff. And Jordan wants to thank Nicole and make sure any money goes to Hiram and none to me.
Okay, very good. I like that. It kind of goes to the collective pot. And actually it goes to pay for it.
He doesn't like me. Shh.
Okay. Well, it just
less smell, more.
Okay. All right. I was to say it just goes to buy us whiskey. It's whiskey, it doesn't buy itself. Anyways, next up is DU does the EFL. I said does the. It's not. It is like Debbie does Dallas. She does not do the Dallas. She does EFL. That's what it is. DU does EFL, which is we're going to talk about the rest of the professional football in England. A little quick snippet on there, and then after that we will do injury time. This week, there's no previews because we're going into the FA Cup. But what I am going to have at injury time this week, we're going to talk a little bit about the two teams from the National League that have made it to the third round of the FA Cup. And of course, we're going to check in on fantasy, talk about the beers we were drinking, and check in on our adopted club. Should somebody want to find injury time, Cole, tell everybody one last time. How do they go about doing that?
It is www.patreon.com/DU Football Show. And there's just one tier. So it's super easy.
Excellent. Next Monday will not be a normal DU show. It will be an FA Cup spectacular because the third round of the FA Cup is the greatest fucking time in the world. Right in my fucking veins. I live for it. It is March Madness on fucking crack. It is amazing. Till next week, everybody.